So we're here at the Rhone River in Geneva. It's actually one of our favourite spots, we were just saying. So the thing we're going to be speaking about today is the different stages in an academic career. So what does an academic career look like? What are these different stages? And how much can you earn along the way at each stage? But the first role is a PhD. And as a PhD, you can be considered an assistant, and so a PhD is stage one. And the awesome thing about a PhD is that you've just finished a master's. All your life you've been studying for free for exams, and all of a sudden somebody is paying you to study. And at the beginning I thought that was quite a cool feeling. I couldn't believe that people were paying me to study. So how much do people pay you to study in this country? Take a guess.
If I have to take a guess, 6,000 a month.
For a PhD? Come on, that's absurd. Do you know how much minimum wage is in this country, in Switzerland?
Well, per hour should be 23.5.
I think you're right, but overall, monthly wage
for a
full-time job, minimum wage would be 3,000 or 3.3 thousand. That's minimum wage in this country if you're working at the cash out of a supermarket or if you're doing a PhD. So as a PhD you can earn in between 3 and 5,000 francs a month, which is equivalent these days to the euro. 1 Swiss franc is almost identical to the euro. So basically, as a PhD in this country, you can earn in between 3.3 thousand and 5,000 a month, depending on if you're only doing research or if you're doing the thing that you said, the assistant job of helping also the professor with exams and teaching. Exactly. In general, my advice would be, if you're thinking about going and doing a PhD, stage one of the academic career would be to choose a PhD where it's pure research. And you'll be paid a bit less, just as I was, but you can focus entirely on the research, which will increase your chances of doing good in this academic path, without being distracted with all this like administration type jobs of helping with exams and helping with teaching and all this stuff where, okay, you're maybe not learning too much, and it's
so it's more boring.
So let's wait for house with your friend. Stage 2 is?
Once you've done the PhD, you mean?
Once you finish the PhD, it's quite simple.
Well?
Postdoctorate. Postdoctorate. It's so simple. It's just like the job is this really unsexy title. It means after PhD.
But is it always compulsory to after PhD?
Great. So that's a great point. So 2 things. How do you progress from one stage to another? In academia, you progress by inventing things, discovering things, and publishing them in academic papers. The better the academic paper, the more important the discovery, and the more it's easy for you to progress to the next stage. Do you always have to follow the path of exactly what comes after? No. If you discover something really cool or you become a big name in your field, you can skip the stages basically. How much do you earn as a postdoctoral researcher?
There must be an increase, obviously.
Yes.
So then, would you be in the 5,000?
Yeah, so the top end of the PhD was 5,000, so now we're speaking about
7?
From 5 to 7, exactly. From 5 to 7. And this is brut. This is obviously before taxes. So as a postdoctoral researcher in this country, Switzerland, you earn in between 5 and 7,000 a month. What do you need to do? Well, at this stage you're becoming a bit more of an expert in the thing that you focused on during the PhD. So during the PhD you hopefully made 1 or 2 discoveries, and by discoveries it doesn't have to be the cure for cancer, it can be even just relatively minor things. So you make 1 or 2 discoveries, you publish them, and then that allows you to get the PhD. And then during the postdoc, when you're a postdoctoral research, you focus even more, and people start to associate you to one or two topics, basically.
All right.
Yeah. After the postdoctoral researcher comes
The search for a proper job.
This is already a proper job. It's already a proper job. So we're talking about people who
It's always temporary.
It is always temporary. So the next stage of this academic journey is another job, which is also temporary,
Okay.
and it's like super researcher, or like think about after the postdoc, what could you have?
Postdoc, I have no idea actually.
Senior researcher.
Alright.
And it could either be senior researcher, or sometimes it's called principal investigator. These roles are a bit different. Senior researcher would be the kind of the lower end of this scale here, and then there's principal researcher would be the kind of high end of this section here that we're speaking about.
It all sounds like a big deal. Like,
Yeah. To be honest, I'm a senior researcher, and it's not a big deal. But
because there's so many steps, so many names. For
yeah.
Things that.
It's all kind of temporary. It's all people just doing the same thing, like spending time reading. But anyway, so how much do you earn as a senior researcher or principal investigator?
I would have 2,000 more then.
So
Are
that
we
would
in the 9?
in between 8 and 10 a month. So in between 8 and 10k a month. And at this stage here, you're already really into a topic or a number of topics. People start to see you as some kind of expert in these topics. But you have a number of other roles so you have to be teaching, so you're also a lecturer, creating your own courses. And also you will have some other administration roles where maybe you would help out the university in promoting itself or something like this. Last thing we'll say about the senior researcher is that you've got this thing called connections or network or whatever word, and they're researchers that presumably like to investigate things that are similar to what you like to investigate. So then you can really team up with people from around the world, which is kind of cool. Because I didn't tell you that, for example, I'll be going to Austin in a month in Texas. They're sending me there.
Wow.
And then I'm going to, so we won't be able to make some videos for
That's
like
so cool. Take me with you.
Yeah.
Texas.
But
Sounds like the place to be.
I would love
I would love that.
No, really. And but that's a conference. But then as part of the network thing, there's a girl called Sonia, and she's in Denmark, and we've got similar ideas. So just a few days ago, she invited me over to Denmark to spend 2 weeks in July, all paid, and that's nice. That's
Yeah.
So that's cool. So after the senior researcher or principal investigator, there's another stage. So you start to become, like, you're moving towards becoming a professor, but you're not a professor yet. Do you know what you are? You're not very good at this game.
No. You're gonna be an assistant professor?
You are, yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
an
Assistant professor or mini professor or associate
Yeah, because
professor.
the goal of a person in academia is not always ending up being a professor. But most of them,
people would love that. And I'll tell you
Are
why.
you
I'll tell you
sure?
why. I'll tell you why.
You
So
sure?
the assistant professor, do you know how much this person earns?
You tell me?
Just add that, you can add more to what you said previously. Just range.
11, 12.
Yeah, 11,
12K.
12, 13. So I mean, that's serious
But-
money. You say a very interesting thing, because there's also lecturer, and lecturer changes according to different countries. In this country here, lecturer is on the same level as assistant professor or associate professor. In other countries, I know that it could be on the same level as a postdoc, so it really is this kind of bonus role that changes according to the country. But in this country, a lecturer, I checked, earns as much as an assistant professor or an associate professor. And that's in between in between 11 and 13,000 Swiss francs a month. So in between 11 and 13,000 also euros a month. That starts to be serious money, also because when I saved up for my first car, the only car I've ever had, it cost 8,000. So you think these people are bringing this home like
Yeah.
easy every month.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah.
But anyway, so these people, they at this stage the job becomes even more administration null, meaning that you have to supervise, for example, PhD students. You're involved in promoting the university in a number of ways. So you spend less time doing research and more time, for example, writing up grants and doing these things like supervision and things like this. And then after that comes the final stage, which is
You're the expert. I mean,
after
here,
the assistant professor, the mini professor comes there.
then the actual professor.
The actual professor, also known as full professor or ordinary professor.
Okay.
And that means that you've got a stable position in a uni where you're going to be bringing home in between 30 from the range here starts to become very wide, in between 13 and 20k a month, depending on how much you're teaching. You could be teaching courses in different unis. At this point you've got a big name, people invite you to give talks, and you're still involved in research, but the job is even more supervisory of PhD students or postdocs that are all working for you, and promoting the university. So from 13 to 20k a month in this country,
I see.
with also the opportunity of earning much more on top of that by publishing books and then selling the books, by giving things that are called executive teaching. So you give courses to
Little
businesses.
talks to.
Yeah, yeah.
But all the time I was wondering, I think I know about cases where they surely didn't do all these steps.
That's why I said you can skip the steps.
I mean, it happens quite often.
Yeah, yeah. For example, a PhD should last about 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Usually lasts about 3-5 years, on average about 3.5-4 years. But for example, the person in this country here who invented LSD, and he was doing his PhD and he was investigating something to do with the liver of a snail, and he was synthesizing this in a chemistry department. He invented a completely new chemical compound that came to be known as LSD, and he thought that it wasn't just going to be used as a party drug, but it could be used for its medicinal properties in a number of ways. So this person here, after 2-3 months, he invents LSD and he finished his PhD. He just had to write it up. So if you're a genius that invents something really, really meaningful or new, then you don't have to. Obviously, all the stages become more loose and flexible.
Yeah.
Even though the wages here for academic jobs seem very, very high, when you put them into proportion, they're very similar to other countries like the UK or America in terms of minimum wage when you start off, and then as progressing and moving away from the minimum wage. By the way, are you thinking about going to academia?
Not at all. No way.